Hey y'all, it's Gamer664 here. Today we're going to be looking at the controllers that Nintendo made throughout all of their consoles. Some good, some not good. So today, let's check it out. Alright, for this one, we're going to start with a classic NES controller. Okay, so this, you're going to have to really put your eyeballs on because we have two of them right here. So you got to see which one is the real one. Alright, take it in. Notice the fine details. Alright, next one. Alright, take it in. Notice the fine details. Alright, quick. Which one's the real one? It's this one. This is the original Nintendo Entertainment System controller, when it was packaged with the NES. This is a pretty nice controller, and it's pretty basic. You have your A and B buttons, your start, select button, your keypad. I actually really like this controller. It's just that it's a little bit too small, and I've heard that these things can these corners at the end can dig into hands. I have never had a problem with it, but it's a classic controller, and on the back you got your things, Nintendo controller, model number, and it's made in Japan. That's cool. Alright, now this is the NES Classics controller, the one that was packaged with the NES Classic. So it uses the same thing that a Wii controller might use, so you can just...
Kind of like a nunchuck?
Yeah, so you can just plug it in and use it for virtual console games and etc. However, the controller cord length is really small. Here's the originals. It's got a pretty big cord. Yeah. So you can buy extenders for this, like we have, but the buttons and everything feel exactly the same. So yeah, let's move on to the Super NES controller. This isn't actually an original Super Nintendo controller because we don't have a Super Nintendo at the moment. But this is a SNES Classic controller, and it's basically the exact same as a original Super Nintendo controller. So this one, it has four face buttons, unlike the original NES controller. Other than that, it has LNR buttons, start and select buttons, D-pad, and overall, it's a pretty nice controller. These buttons right here, I don't know if you can tell, but these have like a
concave, I think.
Yeah, concave. So if you're playing a game like Super Mario Kart, for example, you can put your you can I think in Super Mario.
Thumbs or something.
Yeah, roll your thumbs.
Weird ad right here. They kind of feel like Smarties. The buttons right there. I don't know if that's just me, but they kind of feel like Smarties.
Yeah, they do feel like Smarties. Yeah. So anyway, this is an SNES Classic controller because it doesn't. The original SNES controller had a glossy finish or something on it. Yeah, it wasn't that. It got dirty pretty easily. All right, so let's move on to. All right, so you're gonna have to try on this one. All right.
Alright guys, for this controller, we're going to do, for this controller comparison, we're doing a N64 controller and another N64 controller, and you guys got to tell which one is the real one. So kind of show them what you got. You got your buttons, you got your other buttons, you got your joysticks. Which one is the real controller? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. This one is the real controller. As you could tell when I did the joystick, it made no noise. This one, on the other hand, I don't know if the camera could hear that, but it makes this really annoying squeak noise, and the control stick is super tight and very uncomfortable, but it is a third-party controller. So let's go over the actual original one and some of the weird details. So here's more of a normal, traditional, actual controller. You have 2 analog sticks and your buttons. But when Nintendo was making a controller that could play 3D games, they didn't really know what they were doing. So they did something like this. So for 3D games, you'd hold it like that and that, so you have your buttons and the joystick, and then for 2D games, you'd hold it from the D-pad and the buttons. And honestly, I think this is a weird controller design, don't get me wrong, but it's really not that uncomfortable. I mean, it's still fairly comfortable, but it is kind of weird. You have trigger buttons right here, and you also have one right here, and then you have a little slot for something like a memory card, which is right here. So you can put the memory card in like so. So like that, so you could have a memory card, and then you could also have something like a rumble pack, which we don't have, or a transfer pack. And the transfer pack was able to work with Pokemon Stadium. So like you could transfer your Game Boy games to the Pokemon Stadium one. And honestly, as I said, this is a weird controller, but I still think it's a fairly good one, and honestly, it's just a cool piece of history. So let's move on to the Gamecube. Alright, so right here we have 3 different kinds of Gamecube controllers, and you guys gotta figure out which one is which. This is kind of a little bit easier because, well, it kind of says it on it, but I'll give you guys like 3 seconds or something. Alright, if you guys couldn't tell, this one is the real one. This one's a third-party one for the Gamecube, and this one is for the Nintendo Switch that plugs into the dock using the little USB Type-A port. So we could just start with this one and kind of show you the design of it. So we have A buttons right here, your Y, X, B, and A buttons. And if you notice, the A button's really big. And the reason it's so big is for games like Smash Bros. Because that's the main button you use. Because this controller is actually designed for Smash Bros. Which is why when the Nintendo Switch got Smash Bros, it also got a GameCube controller, which is pretty cool. And for the Wii U, when Super Smash Bros, I think for Wii U came out, it also got a GameCube controller, which is pretty cool. So up here we have the triggers, which, a fun fact, are analog triggers. So if you lightly press it, almost like a car, it will slowly go. But if you hold it down, then the car will zoom off. So you have that on both sides. And a game that did use this was Super Mario Sunshine. So if you lightly held it down, only a little bit of water would go. But if you fully pulled it down, then all the water would go. You have the Z button right here. 2 analog sticks, which I think is a little bit better than the 64's just 1. So you have like up and down motions, and then like move around, and then you still have a D-pad if you want to use it. I don't think it's very good, and it's super small, so I think it's kind of bad, but it's still there. Then this one, these both use the same connection ports, which can go on the Wii, because the Wii does have backwards compatibility. Then this one right here is just a third-party one. I forgot which company made it, but honestly, I like this one a little bit more than the actual original one because the membranes. This one has a nicer click than this one. But honestly, it's really such a subtle detail, so it doesn't really matter that much. Then this one for the Nintendo Switch, as you can tell, has a little bit more buttons. So this one's a plus and minus button. So if you wanted to pause the game, this one's a capture button to take pictures, and this one's a home button, which is nice. Rather than just having this button, if you're using it on a Nintendo Switch, you still have a little bit more of like the actual sort of media-ish controls for the Switch. And they're all basically the same controller, have the same things. This one still has analog controllers, or analog triggers, I'm pretty sure, but from my knowledge, I don't think any Switch games actually use analog triggers. But yeah, the GameCube controller is a really nice controller, and it's definitely one of my favorites because honestly, it still gets remade to this day, and a lot of people love it. So let's move on to the Wii.
So next we have the Wii. The Wii was pretty interesting because it was the first Nintendo controller that was bundled wirelessly. There was no wired controllers that came with it, unless you count the nunchuck. The Wii was okay, I guess. I mean, when it worked, it worked. When it didn't work, you had to live with it. But yeah, the Wii has, the standard Wii controller has a D-pad, an A button, plus and minus button, home button, and a 1 and 2 button. And the nunchuck just has an analog stick and 2 trigger buttons. Oh, and the Wii controller also has a trigger button here. So yeah, the Wii was pretty good. Like for Wii Sports, you could use it like this, and you could swing the baseball bat like that. And the whole idea of the Wii was like it got you off your feet, like with, you know, with standard controllers like PS4 or Xbox One. You just sit on a couch and play like Call of Duty or something. With the Wii, you can you got up and played like Wii Sports or Wii Fit, or you know, like for example, you could use the Wii remote just on its side, like for Mario Kart Wii, you can turn it like that, and that's pretty much it. You have anything else to add?
It also had like cool attachments, like gun attachments, wheel attachments. It was really cool and like kind of versatile in a way, of like the stuff that you could put in like baseball bats, tennis bats, as I said, like guns, like, you know, like steering wheels and stuff like that.
And we also have the Wii balance board. Now, originally, we didn't know if we could count this as a controller or not, but you control games with it, so we decided to count it anyway. Anyway, you would stand on it, and it was mainly used for games like for example Wii Fit, and you basically stand on it and measure your weight. You could exercise with it, and yeah, we didn't know how to control if it's a controller or not, but you control the game with it. So
and
yeah.
Fun fact: this is actually the best-selling like scale that like actually weighs your body. The Wii Balance Board is, I'm pretty sure.
Very interesting. Now let's move on to the Nintendo Switch.
And our last controller, besides the Virtual Boy, we didn't have that controller because it's Virtual Boy. I'll throw up a picture of it. That's what it looked like. Kind of weird controller with like 2 D-pads. What are your thoughts on it, Owen?
I've never actually held a Virtual Boy controller, but what I've heard, it's an okay-ish controller. I think it would be fine, but the Virtual Boy itself, no, I'm not using that.
Alright, so now let's go on to the final controller of the list, which is the Nintendo Nintendo Switch, sorry. So right here is the neon blue and red Joy-Cons, and it's in the Joy-Con grip right now, which is bundled in with the Nintendo Switch. And the cool thing about the Switch is how versatile it is. You can have it in a grip, you can take off the Joy-Cons, and put a Joy-Con rail on it. Just slide it on like that. So you can play it sideways. So you can play games like Mario Kart. So like this is your A button, your drift, and or basically trigger buttons, and your analog stick, which is pretty cool. And you can take the rail off, and then you can also put it on the actual Nintendo Switch, which is basically the console. So then you could play portably or on the go, which is another cool thing, as it's one of the very first hybrid consoles. You could play it in its undocked form, like Mario Kart, for instance, something like this, or you could play it on the big screen or like a TV, which is really cool in my opinion. And honestly, I just like the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons for basically how versatile they are. They're not the most comfortable controllers, but I just think it's cool that you could put them in a grip, side rails on the Switch, and stuff like that. But if you want a good third-party controller, which I actually made a video on, is right here, and this is the 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus, and this is kind of like a PlayStation controller with a symmetrical, oh yeah, right here, oh, thank you, kind of like a PlayStation controller with symmetrical analog sticks, and I believe is what you would call it is concave, but in my opinion, the D-pad's a little bit better than the Joy-Cons, kind of buttons, which isn't really a D-pad, and the actual D-pad on here, and the triggers feel nice, and everything about this controller feels really nice, as motion controls, and all that stuff that you like basically need to play a game. If you guys want to like know more about this, I have an actual video on it, but that's kind of like just a brief summary. Really good, you know, like third-party controller. But yeah, that's really it for our controllers video. We hope you guys enjoyed, and now we'll go kind of towards the outro or conclusion of the video.
We'll quickly mention that we forgot the Wii U. Basically, the Wii U uses like it's basically the Nintendo Switch, except it has a D-pad and it's black, and we'll put a picture of it right here. So the Wii U gamepad isn't that bad, but it's just.
I think the Switch kind of improved on it because you couldn't use it portably; you had to be like near it, but it was still a cool idea.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. But the Wii U also uses these bad boys, the Wii controller and nunchuck. It's compatible with every Wii controller, plus the SNES and NES Classics controllers. Anything you want to say?
I think that's all the controllers, at least like the first party Nintendo controllers. Yeah, do you want to do the outro? Like what are your thoughts? What would you be your top like 3 picks or something like that?
My top 3 picks,
or just like favorite controllers you like?
Mine would be the Gamecube controller, the Switch controllers, and then funny enough, the Wii controllers. I've always liked the Wii controllers just because of how good they were and how innovative they were. They were just so cool. Like you were so, like when we were little, Wii's were so cool to have.
Yeah, honestly, I would probably say the same thing because like the Wii like used motion controls, which was like a big deal. It even had like a little speaker in the controller. The Switch kind of does the same thing with like HD rumble. It adds on stuff, which I think is cool. And like you can use them sideways and the grip. And then also the GameCube controller, in my opinion, is really good because they still make it today, and it's like a really comfortable controller, and it's really good for Smash Bros. Like probably the best controller for Smash Bros. And it's still a pretty cool controller. and they had like the wave bird and stuff like that. So I think that's it. Anything to add?
No,
I think
not really.
that's it.
I think that's it.
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like.
Make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and check out our other videos. That's it.
Peace.
See you next time.